Haman Nature, a journey in search of a peaceful and prosperous society with human nature as a guide. Led by your host, Adam Haman.
Hello and welcome to Haman Nature. I am Adam Haman, and I'm joined, as always, by my buddy Tyrone. How you feeling today? I see what you're doing there.
I got my Star Wars spikes on. That wasn't the weird, creepy phone call guy.
The call is coming from inside the house.
From inside the Death Star. Now, why am I breathing heavy, Adam?
Why in the world are you channeling Anakin Skywalker?
Well, we're gonna talk about a topic that gets my goat quite a bit, and it's based on one of your articles again, called "What Darth Vader Can Teach Us About Electric Vehicles and Their Hidden Fees." Whoa, sounds ominous.
Yeah, I mean, you're thinking about transitioning from gas-powered vehicles to EVs, and it's all sorts of things to consider: convenience, expense, how you're going to, charge the vehicle up, what that's going to cost. But at least you know for sure that you're going to save money on gas, right? You're not to pay those nasty gas taxes that can be so high in so many states. At least you got that going for you, right?
You got that going for you.
In your calculus, you can definitely use in ink those calculations because you don't have to pay any gas taxes. Except, turns out that in over 30 states in this here republic, they will charge you when you register your car an additional EV tax because you're not going to have to pay all those gas taxes. I don't remember hearing about that when I was at the dealership figuring out what this car was going to cost me.
That's right. Or all the politicians saying, we're going to save the world. And they didn't include that little nugget.
No, they didn't.
But
so, yeah.
Like with all things government, this is quite the foreseeable outcome. Not surprising.
Yeah. And 7 of these states even have taxes on EV charging itself, which just seems like a little extra.
Right.
Like above and beyond some kind of sales tax or whatever. There's an extra charge for this type of electricity, which just always seems a little nuts.
Adam, can you put a price on saving the world?
If I were in Congress, I could, or a state legislature.
It just takes a little tax, apparently.
One of the things that just annoys me to no end about this whole issue is the fact that people say, we're saving the planet. We're emitting so much less carbon because of the gas that isn't being burned inside your internal combustion engine. But then what source of energy do we use to manufacture the electricity for the grid in almost everywhere? It's coal or natural gas or something. It's
right.
The people that love this argument just think that the electricity just appears by magic out of their charging port. They don't. It's like they don't think about where it comes from.
Right. I do find that the things you take for granted, if you really think about some of these things, obviously as libertarians, we're very familiar with the SAI pencil, kind of famous in our circles, and you think about, well, pencil, that's super simple, and it's so complicated when you think about all the things that have to go into it and all the second and third orders of operations, right? Well, kind of the same thing here. Shoot, I forgot the point you had just made. I was going to make something about the world's just way more complicated or something.
I don't either.
Well, yeah, I mean, building these electric vehicles, it's a monumental endeavor, and it takes a lot of energy. And I think I remember the point I was going to make was that you take things for granted, like electricity, and you don't think about it, but when you flip on your switch to the light in your house, you just expect the light to come on. But what you don't think about is, how is that possible? Well, in order for that to happen, the electricity in the wires has to be running all the time, non-stop. Electricity, the current's just running into your house, just waiting for you to let it out. Like think of like a faucet for your hose or something, right? The water's in the pipe, it's waiting to come out. But electricity is a little different. It's electrons instead of a physical substance, so it's not just sitting in the wires. It's not being stored in the wires. It's running out, right? Um, so yeah, these plants have to be generating electricity 24/7 all the time, just pushing it, so that when you flip your switch, it's there. Instead of you flipping a switch, and that sends a signal to the generating plant to fire up the generator, push out the electricity, and 10 minutes later you get your electricity, right? So yeah, you need a reliable source. You need a reliable fuel source to generate that electricity. The best reliable fuel sources we have are coal, natural gas, nuclear, um, oil, hydro, and in some cases, um, things like that. It's certainly not wind and solar. So yeah, behind the clean electricity that everybody wants to use to power their lives and their cars now is some dirtier secrets that people don't realize.
Yeah, you mentioned nuclear, and we've said it before, but it bears repeating over and over and over. If these climate activists really believed what they were saying, they'd be pushing hard for nuclear deregulation and proliferation everywhere because it is the most concentrated form of energy we've discovered yet, barring some science fiction stories. And yeah, that should be everywhere. And I also think that, I mean, the problem isn't the technology. I think there's a place for electric vehicles, um, short range, high use, where you have a bunch of charging ports, like a big warehouse, or people that live in an urban setting or something and don't go very far. But the problem, again, it's not the tech; it's the government regulations. Those are the things that distort the market. They distort the production. They distort the distribution. They distort the consumers' choices. And if that wasn't there, then these things would find their role in a complicated economy and would probably gain acceptance as the tech got better, the energy transmission, the batteries. Oh, they explode from time to time, catch fire. That's not that's not good.
And you can't put the fires out. They burn for days.
I mean, entropy eventually gets all fire, right? But yeah, you can't put it out with water or chemical extinguisher. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I was gonna say one more thing. It's kind of a side tangent, but it just makes me laugh that we talk about these different fuel sources, but it's not like electricity comes out of coal, right? No, heat comes out of coal. All of the electrical power plants that we use today, except for hydro plants, but
Hydro,
in
yeah,
theory, it's the exact same mechanism.
movement of water,
You're turning a motor
turning a
to
turbine.
generate an
Yeah,
electrical current. We're just using steam engines. I mean,
right,
that
right.
that's the height of our technology. A nuclear plant sounds fancy. Nope, it's just one big steam engine. Like,
Really, just
wow.
a fancy steam engine. Who is it? We're still on the shoulders of James Watt or whoever
I mean,
ostensibly
in the
invented that thing.
1800s, right? Well, I mean, the ancient Greeks had a really rudimentary version of a steam engine that never like went anywhere because I don't think they had the scalability, to produce it. But Industrial Revolution, 1800 or maybe 1700s. I can look that up quick, but
I don't know. I'm still hung up on whether we should introduce into the lexicon crudimentary because that is a great word.
rudimentary.
Yeah, you were kind of hung between the two. I think that's a good one.
So check this out. The first steam engine was patented in 1698 by Thomas Savery, an English inventor and military engineer. Didn't really become viable until 1712. And anyway, it's over, man, 300 years, more than 300-year technology, and that's basically what we're still using to power our society. I don't know. That's weird. Side tangent. Anyway, the point of your article, Adam, was that EV sales, man, they really started to take a nosedive lately. If you see the news, looked up a couple of articles. Um, one from the Telegraph with the headline, Europe is revolting against the tyranny of electric cars. Once again, Britain is leading the way in resisting the new net zero orthodoxy. And basically this just goes on to, your it's just a simple cost benefit analysis. I mean, these things are expensive. And once a lot of these government subsidies go away, well, they're no longer competitive economically, just from a price tag standpoint. But then to repair them, if something goes wrong with the battery, those things are not cheap. So it seems like the cost savings on the gas at best maybe is sort of like a break even. So consumers are starting to go away from them because there aren't charging stations. You're now getting charged, extra to use the charging stations. There's taxes going on. There's new licensing fees that are getting added on. And so it seems like the electric vehicle industry is in a bit of um, is in a bit of trouble. Another headline from a couple of different sites. Uh, New York Times has this one called GM's ailing China business will deal it a $5 billion blow. General Motors said that it would take a more than $5 billion hit to its profit as it restructures its ailing operations in China, which have been losing money as its car sales there have dropped sharply. The China situation's a little bit different from ours, but essentially their economy has really slowed down. And the Chinese quote unquote knockoffs, I mean, it's all their technology anyway. They build everything over there anyway. They're going to these partnerships, in this case with GM. They're making a public-private partnership because that's the only way you can do business in China is to merge up with somebody, and then you sign over all your IP stuff. And then what do they do? Well, they take all that stuff, they open up a plant down the street and compete against you. Thanks for coming in, America. Thanks. And now we'll just take everything and see you later. So GM's going to lose $5 billion. Now, can you remember in 2008? Or wait, what? Yeah, everybody got bailed out in 2008. But I think the car companies were a part of that, as I recall. And I don't know, what did GM get? A couple $1 billion that they quote unquote had to repay. Now they're going to lose $5 billion.
Yeah, GM got saved. I think Ford escaped somehow.
Didn't take the money.
Yeah, they
for
didn't
whatever
take the
reason
money
or something. I can't remember what that was all about.
Chrysler got saved, and then
Twice.
Yeah,
Lee Iacocca back in the 80s, remember? Pitching his bailout for Chrysler. What a joke. And now they're owned by European companies. I mean, well, that worked.
Italian. Even worse than European, Italian. I think Fiat's Italian. Yeah, all these distortions in the market are just so harmful. And sometimes we can see their effects right away, like with the bailouts. That gives just an incredible moral hazard problem to the people who run these companies. They take horrible risks with the capital because they always think they can get that Bernanke put or whatever the equivalent it is when it's just a bailout from the government. But it's also a distortion even at the level of just these changing regulations and taxes, like we're talking about with these registration fees. How do you make long-term decisions? I mean, however long-term owning a car is, 5 years, 10 years, whatever. How do you make these things rationally when the government can always come along and just change the deal? They're going to add a tax when you didn't think there's going to be one at all. What happens with a 3 exit or 5 exit or 10 exit? Because, hey, reasons. And it's even more destructive in the production and distribution space. How do companies decide to allocate all this capital, all these resources, employ thousands of people with all the cumbersome, you know, labor regulations to go along with that. How do you make that decision when you can't even see what the environment's going to be next year because some crazy legislature is just going to change the rules on you? Think of all the money that got sunk into um, building cars and selling them in California that use gas. And then some legislature just comes along and says, oh, yeah, by the way, those things are going to be totally illegal to buy here in a few years. Thank you. Come again. It's crazy. And I don't think people always sort of sit in an ivory tower and think, oh, what would be the best piece of legislation to issue without thinking about these long-term production and consumption decisions that are impacted by understanding what the lay of the land is and acting rationally on the basis of that knowledge. If you don't know what the legislature is going to do, you can't act logically. It breeds chaos, and I wish people just thought about that a little bit more.
Yeah, I don't know about ivory castles, but I do spend some time in White Castles.
Oh yeah, delicious.
There's a lot of gas in there for free.
Is it wrong that I order them 15 at a time?
Well, they're so small.
They're so small.
And they got holes in them that you're missing out on the meat. So you gotta get extra. But to bring it back to your article, just so we get the Darth Vader reference there. What's the Darth Vader reference for this purposes of this?
Oh, it's just that famous scene with Lando Calrissian. He was complaining that he didn't think they were going to steal anybody else but Han Solo, and they're dragging off Leia and the Wookiee and whatever. And so there's that famous scene. I thought we had a deal. Do your breathing thing. Please don't. Sorry. I have altered the deal. Pray I do not alter it any further. That they should have had a legislative building, stamped on Darth Vader's helmet when he said that, because that is exactly what government does. They alter the damn deal all the time.
Well, it's also a problem of central planning in that they don't have good ways to predict the future or understand the consequences of a certain legislation or whatever. So when they start making these EV mandates, they just think to themselves, they think about that in one box.
Yep.
And they think about revenue and tax revenue in another box. And they don't relate the two. They don't understand how one might affect the other, because to them it's taxes and it's magical, right? They get it. It comes from the sky. Also, can we stop calling it revenue, please? I really hate this. Tax revenue. You didn't earn anything. It's not revenue. You mean theft? Okay. Your pirate's booty.
Yeah, plunder.
Whatever you want to call it. Your plunder. Yes, plunder. Tax plunder. That's what. Yes, there. Plunder. Well, Adam, if you don't mind indulging me here for a minute, I can't help but rag on my state of Minnesota whenever I get the chance. So, as you mentioned in your article, well, okay, we don't like these gas taxes, but at least they specifically go to the roads, right? we all know that it's dedicated funds that go to the roads. Well, of course, we know that's not true. We know it just goes into the general fund like Social Security. Why is there no money for Social Security? They just spend it. There's no lockbox. Al Gore, thanks a lot for that. But I wanted to go back to back to Minnesota real quick and throw a few numbers out there just to, I don't know, make it sting a bit more that I live here, and winter has just come, so I'm very ornery. All hail the Night King. So in 2023, Minnesota advanced or completed. I don't know what advanced means. Did they put some more orange cones down on the road? 227 road and bridge projects. Wow, 227. But there's not much information about the total number of miles of new roads built. So I did a little bit of a research. Now, I'm no expert on this, and I bet I'd get fact checked on this immediately. But I went to the Minnesota Department of Transportation site and I tried to find where any new roads were built. I mean, if you're going to tax me some money for the roads, shouldn't I get some nicer, newer, better roads? But apparently, there's no information on that, and I certainly couldn't find any. But they did, let's see here, they reconstructed 12 and a half miles of a highway. They completed work on a bridge that was already existing. These are the highlights, according to the Department of Traffic in Minnesota. They completed 3 bridge projects near the North Shore. Now, what's a bridge project, you ask? Who knows? Could be something as just putting up a sign. From Axios, there's a headline that says Minnesota's gas tax collections fall, but a hike is coming. Minnesota gas taxes make up a smaller share of the state's total government revenue. Why it matters. The taxes are used exclusively to pay for roads and bridges. Did you know that, Adam?
I do not believe this claim. I did in 5th grade, but I no longer believe this claim.
But the amount collected has been declining in recent years, due in part to the rise of electric vehicles and more fuel-efficient hybrids on state roads. Now, get a load of this. Okay? In 2023, the Minnesota state government collected $873 million in gas taxes alone. $873 million for no new roads. Okay, so you might say, well, they got a lot of roads and bridges and stuff. You know, repair things cost. Okay, well that's great, but that's not the only money that the state of Minnesota gets. That's just from the state's gas tax revenue. Minnesota fuel taxes to jump 12% in 2025 due to new law. Oh, goody. I'm so glad to live in this state. 12%. Now, I'm sorry. That seems like it's a bit more than just the rise of inflation. And also, if the cost of gasoline is going down, should the taxes go down too? Because nope, because it's just going to be a flat 31.8 cents per gallon or something like that. I don't know how they calculate this stuff, but it's freaking crazy. I really want to get to a couple more numbers here though. Okay, so Minnesota received all that money, 873 million from the gas taxes, but guess what? The state of Minnesota also received over $811 million annually from the federal government to maintain roads and bridges. This includes an additional $62 million annually for bridges. Minnesota received another $35 million in the Infrastructure for Rebuilding America grants. Minnesota also has the IIJA discretionary match program, which provides matching funds to grant recipients. Who knows where that money comes from? That a federal discretionary award for a transportation-related purpose. In 2023, Minnesota got $216.4 million. So I want you to add all that up. You know, I'm not good at math. It's close to $2 billion. $2 billion. So let me tell you about what that $2 billion gets you. Minnesota has 144,000 miles of roads and 5,000 bridges, the nation's 5th largest road network. Wow, hey, that's pretty nice, Minnesota. Good job. But did you know that 50% of state highway pavements are more than 50 years old? 35% of state bridges are more than 50 years old? What the hell? Where is all of this money going? They're not building new roads. They've completed some or advanced some projects. $2 billion. I don't know, Adam. I'm just Can, can we get Elon and Doge and Vivek to take a look at this stuff? I mean, it's ridiculous. Oh no, wait. There's one more thing I've gotta rail on here. Hold on. I gotta find it. Aaron, you talk. What's your feedback on that, Adam?
Well, you sound upset. Take a deep breath. I would like to make you feel a little bit better. You clearly feel like you're being gouged and disrespected by your government, who is taking all manner of tax-funded money from you and apparently not delivering to you very good roads. But whatever they're doing to you doesn't hold a candle, in my opinion, to what the government of California is doing to its poor citizens, because they have the highest gas taxes in the nation and they sell a lot of gas. They generate a huge amount of money. I'm not going to go to the Googles and try and figure out how much it is, but not only do they not repair the roads, I'm pretty sure they install signs every 2.5 miles that just say, "We hate you, drivers of gas cars and citizens. We despise you." You come to Vegas an awful lot. Have you ever, I don't know why you would, but have you ever driven south on the 15 and gone into California?
No, I haven't. Mm-mm.
Well, if you do, as I did just a little over a week ago, going to visit friends in California, Los Angeles for Thanksgiving, as soon as you cross the border, the nice Nevada roads, uh, it switches from 3 lanes to 2, and you immediately start bouncing up and down on these pothole infested, uh, patchwork quilt like roads that have just they're just a mess. You can see where various ancient construction projects have happened on them, but nothing in quite a while. And it's just, they obviously hate you. The traffic famously backs up all the way from sometimes where my house is in southern Vegas, all the way out to, out up the mountain, miles and miles and miles away, just because the roads are crappy and they deprive you of a lane. Oh, and here's another little piece of nastiness the government of California does to you. As you're driving south on the 15, just after you've crossed the border into California, the entire highway diverts off to the right, and everybody has to slow down to pass through like an agricultural inspection station. Except there's nobody there. They're not doing anything. They haven't for over a decade. They just make you slow down and tip your hat to the king, uh, and then get back on the road. There's no purpose for it. And yet every car has to slow down and drive through the little arch where there used to be some attendant doing supposedly some important thing that they're not doing anymore. I bet the union that runs those places is still getting a pension somehow, but
somebody's got to maintain it.
It's insane. Yeah. So
$100,000 to paint a white stripe or something.
Oh, they don't paint. Are you crazy? Have you been to California? No. You get bumps. That's all you get. So it just goes to show that government does not have to give you the services it promises, despite having pulled out a gun and extracted, quote, revenue from you. It's just the most evil way to fund and finance anything. And I can't understand why we're so barbaric that we still put up with it.
Just want to take one last final pot shot, but I'm at Minnesota, but this I'm sure applies to all states and all projects everywhere. But this is from the Minnesota Reformer with a headline that reads, "Here's the Minnesota projects funded through the federal infrastructure bill." So this is when the infrastructure bill was passed, and they list how much money in each project. That's great. But sort of towards the end of the article, they write, MnDOT, so the Minnesota Department of Transportation, will also receive $121 million over the next 5 years from the federal Protect. God, you got to love these acronyms. From the Federal Protect Act or whatever, which stands for Promoting Resilient Operations for Transformative, Efficient, and Cost-Saving Transportation.
That's Prof Tip.
To ensure transportation infrastructure can withstand climate change.
Oh my God. You know, I think I understand.
Hey, look, in Minnesota, the only climate change is that it's going to get warmer, which is
And
going to
colder.
be better for the roads. So, what's there to study?
That's true.
Oh my God. I can't take it. And this climate change thing, it's infested everything, Adam. I don't know. Do you follow Steve Malloy at Junk Science on X or anywhere else?
It's got junk right in the title. Why would I read that?
He's great. And he's always ripping on the climate science junk, pointing out, the data is just horrible, but he has a lot of topics and links on electrical vehicles as well. I'd highly encourage anyone to follow him. He's definitely worth a good laugh, because he just points out so much absurdity in this climate science. Oh, trust the science.
I think you've brushed against the solution here. When we're watching The Empire Strikes Back and we see Darth Vader changing the deal on poor Lando, and we know he's evil for doing that, but part of the reason is because he's a giant and he's dressed all in plastic with a funky helmet, and when he breathes, he does that creepy thing that you did here at the beginning of the show. So we know he's evil, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think we need to make all of our legislatures, both in the state and Washington, D.C., dress up like Darth Vader and talk through that filtery. Then we'd know they're evil. And so we'd know what's happening.
That's genius. Hey, if Fetterman can wear a hoodie and sweatshirt on the
Yes.
Capitol floor, people can wear a Vader costume, like the barristers do in the English courts, right? That funny costumes. Everybody that goes to Congress, you have to dress like Darth Vader. I love it.
Slam that funky hood and mask on Elizabeth Warren and AOC. Just bottle them all up in the Darth Vader getup, and then we'll finally know what we're dealing with. It'll sound evil. It'll look evil.
That's a good point. When you make a deal with Darth Vader, you make a deal with the devil and make a deal with evil. You shouldn't be surprised when they change the deal.
Amen, my friend. Well, that sounds like a perfect spot to wrap. I'd like to thank you for all you do, my friend, and thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for watching and listening to Haman Nature. Please go to hamannature.substack.com. That's HAMAN. Check out everything we do there, and if you love the show, please consider becoming a paid subscriber. That helps us out a lot. And do all the liking and subscribing and all that fun stuff. We will catch you next time on Haman Nature.